Today's video dedication is for Whiskey Jack. Duskana the Rage Mother versus Lucea Kane, partners Frodo and Sam, and Wort the Raid Mother. And we've got ramp into rhythm, we can refill our hand with wheel if needs be, no creatures, but we'll keep this thanks to the Wheel of Fortune. We are last in the turn order, draw into a 2/2 bear, Grenzo Havoc Raiser. So we'll go for the forest and pass, ready for a 3 visits next turn. Turn 1 Sol Ring for Wort, a Nature's Law for the partner deck, and getting in an untapped land there, so making his first food with the Gilded Goose. Note whether there is a Shizo, Death Storehouse in here to give legendaries fear. Alright, and a plains, so go for the mountain into the Traskell land with the 3 visits. There is a creature that I always forget the name of. It's a Boros Reclamation Sage, and it cares about having 2 mountains and 2 plains in play, so we'll easily be able to do that now. It is the Duergar Hedge Mage, which we don't see anywhere near enough play of in Commander. More 2 mana ramp in the form of Farseek, going after a Surveil land and deciding to throw away a Goblin Rebel Master. A Lembas is a food when it enters scry 1 and draw, cracking a food with the Gilded Goose in order to allow Frodo to attack in next turn. Explore for Lucea is draw a card, play an additional land this turn. So up to 4 lands by turn 3 over there. And that is a Goblin and Narcomancer, so yeah, the colours are a little bit off unfortunately. We could have gone for that into the Rhythm of the Wild, but instead it is just going to be Rhythm of the Wild this turn, I think. Parallel Lives for Wort before the commander comes down, then going in for a Faithless Looting for some card filtering. So in the bin after that we see a land and an Electric Revelation. Managed to play a land this turn as well. Only 3 cards in hand over here though. 2 mana ramp galore in this game, a 3 visits this time. And with the surplus mana decided to crack the Lembas, which is shuffled into the library. Frodo to the left against Wort. So being tempted by the ring for the first time, and as a reminder, level 1, Frodo can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Lucea is the second commander to enter play, throwing a plus counter onto itself. Alright, that is an Aganjo, so getting into a decent amount of white, although we don't have many white spells in hand. Let's get down the Goblin Anarchomancer. And I think that can just come down with a plus counter from the Rhythm of the Wild in order to make it more easy for us to play the Great Henge. How much is this going to cost now? Because I'm too lazy to work it out. 5 mana. I'm remiss to go for Wheel of Fortune while we've got decent card draw spells in hand. We just need to look out and get into more mana, which obviously we have done this game. So yeah, maybe take another turn off for the Great Henge next turn. But cannot play the Grenzo here, annoyingly. We can threaten something like Generous Gift or Beast Within though. And out comes this commander now, going to come out with twice as many Goblin tokens. Samwise into play now before Frodo swings in. He makes a food before Frodo goes into the red zone. And has 2 options here, either us or Lucea. Decides to go in at Lucea. Okay, and decided to crack the food after the fact. He should have cracked the food before swinging in with Frodo, so he's lost out on level 2 here. So he's effectively lost a turn. A great new one from the recent Warhammer set that is now in, or on Magic Online, Atalan Jackal. That's in this deck actually. And a Gargoyle Flock as well. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature entered under your control this turn, make a 1/1 token with flying. And a plus counter going to be placed on this, so may well go in against us. Do we want to trade? No, going up against Frodo instead. Samwise does have 4 toughness, so could easily block. Instead deciding to throw the Gilded Goose away. Okay, double blocking. So losing out on the Gilded Goose, getting a token at the end of the turn. And in it comes for us. A Silverblade Paladin, so we are getting the 2/2s. Now we've got about 30 of them in the deck, so shouldn't struggle drawing into them. Painting a target on our head and we're taking off too many turns for my liking, but it would be great to get down a bit of ramp in the form of the Great Henge. May well be that we're just getting removal out of our opponent's hand though. The colours are a little bit clunky because we've drawn into our basics as opposed to the jewels, but yeah, we'll leave it at that. Manamorphose has Conspire, draws a card and is mana filtering. Obviously with Conspire it does equate to ramp though, at the cost of tapping down the tokens. So I'll draw a couple and add 4 mana. Then casting an unexpected windfall with Conspire, so 2 treasures and draw 2 cards, so refilling the hand nicely. Of course, getting twice as many treasures thanks to the parallel lives, so yep, that definitely pays for itself. 8 treasures off 1 unexpected windfall, copied of course, and an impact tremors. So gonna peck away at us with the more tokens that he gets into play. 5 cards in hand now. Skirk Prospector, able to tap down with Conspire, also sacrifice the tokens, sacrifice the Wort in order to replay it again if needs be. Pings us for 1 on the tremors. No doubt Wort is going to want to set up multiple combos. Hordling Outburst makes more tokens and is conspired again. So 6 goblins on 1 Hordling Outburst. And we've got another one to go yet, so going to take 12 damage to that thing. A Brightstone Ritual, going to add red per goblin on the battlefield, and again it is being conspired. Just going to tap down the henge. I'm not going to bluff with a Beast Within anymore, because we'll gain a couple of life. So 34 mana in the pool with 2 cards in hand. And then a City on Fire. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it's triple the damage instead. 1 card left in hand. And is able to sacrifice the commander and replay it with the Prospector. Last card in the hand was a Gem Palm Incinerator. 17 goblins on the battlefield, X damage to any target when you cycle it. So that was just pointed at the Frodo. Does draw a card off the cycling, of course. A Growing Rights of Itlamok, so plenty of mana, but now no cards in hand, so we'll hold off on this Wheel of Fortune for as long as we can. Could get a relevant creature here, but didn't have any on top of the library. So 0 cards in hand, 22 floating. And no such thing as mana burn nowadays, thankfully. Forgot about the Faithless Looting. Is able to flash that back, but will not have any cards in hand. He's literally just looking at the top 2 cards of his library and throwing them in the bin here. So throw away a land and a Krenko, and then a Chaos Warp and a Reiterate going in the bin. Not sure if there's other flashback things that he's expecting there. And thanks to all the surplus of creatures, the Growing Rights of Itlamok does turn into the Guy's Cradle, of course. Inspiring Statuary for the Frodo and Sam deck. Following that up with Sarinth, Steel Seeker. Whenever an artifact enters under your control, look at the top card. If it's a land, put it into hand. If you don't, you can put it into the bin. And we've seen a Deadly Dispute be thrown into the graveyard. Melanthrope from the 40k deck. When it enters the battlefield, exile a target player's graveyard, put plus counters on this equal to each creature put away this way. 3 plus counters on this goes after the player that's going off. And the commander putting a plus counter on itself again. And deciding to swing in quite aggressively, going at the... I mean, that's fine with me. It means that these tokens might try and go wide and deal some triple damage. And the Gargoyle Flock is going to make another token. So let's see what we get here. There's a Manglehorn. This is an enchantment, isn't it? Yes. So I don't think we're too concerned about a Manglehorn at the moment. I think we want to get down at Silverblade Paladin and the Grenzo. Putting double strike on this I wouldn't mind, because it makes it easier to block these things, at least some of them, if we've got a couple of double strikers in play. So let's go for that. It will get a plus counter on it from the henge. I'll put another one on from our enchantment, because we're not going to be swinging in here. Soul Bond goes on the stack first so that we can see what we draw with the Great Henge. I don't think it will be relevant, but you never know. Alright, a land is good. And we will Soul Bond with the Anarchomancer. Yeah, so let's go for Grenzo. And again, that's a plus counter, so 2 plus counters on there. And a cantrip from the henge. Alright, and another land. I don't particularly mind, to be honest. I don't think anyone's going to go for a board wipe, otherwise they would have done it by now. Can always top deck one, but yeah, it might be worth just getting down the Manglehorn as well. We'll go after the Sol Ring, which I don't think makes much difference, but it will make things like treasures come into play tapped. So we'll grab ourselves some more red mana, I think, and play the Manglehorn for another card draw. Oh, I forgot it costs 1 less actually, so the Plateau could have been a tap land. Plus counter. And destroy the Sol Ring. Alright, draws us into another 2-2 in the Skyclave Apparition, so we're looking like we're going to be able to refill our hand decently with our commander. Can we do anything about all this madness here is the question. So we've got a couple of 4/4s in play and then a 4/4 double strike and a 3/3 double strike, so we can block a fair amount of these 1/1s as long as they stay 1/1s. Just praying that this player doesn't get a decent rip off the top. And then our opponent went for a Lictor at the end of the turn. If a creature entered under an opponent's control this turn, create a 3/3 Tyrannid with Trample. I always like the Tyrannids in 40k. I'm not a Warhammer player, but I have painted some of the models. I'm actually quite decent at painting. Don't have any idea about the game though. Are there enough Tyrannids in the game to make a Tyrannid deck now? I suppose you'd pretty much just be playing the precon, wouldn't you? Right, now watch this. He's going to cast Shamanic Revelation or something like that. Going through to combat with triple damage. Taking a lot in at the Tyrannid player. I think that is 12 1/1s. Each are going to deal 3 damage. And holding back some creatures, either for blockers or maybe Conspire. We still don't know what's in the hand. So blocking with anything that has higher than 3 toughness will do here. Noteworthy, he has blocked with his commander, so that will go down. Yeah, he's blocking with pretty much everything here, so he is going to lose some creatures. Yep, so losing the Lictor, the Commander and Atalan Jackal. Did take down some creatures with it at least, but still a horde to deal with over here. Leaving that 1 card in hand, whatever it is. Tempt with Discovery, we should be saying no to. We do have Gaia's Cradle in the deck, I think. Got Field of the Dead as well, actually. See what this player does. Went after Gingerbread Cabin in order to make a food. Seems as though this player's correctly said no. I'm going to do the wrong thing and say Field of the Dead here. And that does trigger because we've got 7 lands with different names. And this player goes for 1 as well. So Sam and Frodo get another 2 lands into play, which I don't mind to be honest because they are quite far behind at this point. Been quite a fast game for a casual pod anyway. So then was able to grab the Shire. And I think it was Vault of Champions as well. A food did come into play from the land, so triggered this. I'm not sure if they got an additional land from that. 6 cards in hand anyway. Yeah, they didn't put anything else into the bin, so must have grabbed a land. Throwing down a Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff. And now in comes a Roaming Throne. Not sure they'll name Halfling, you would imagine. Yep, named Halfling with that, and triggering the Steel Seeker again. And this time throwing Tough Cookie away. So now Sam is going to make 2 foods at the beginning of combat thanks to triggering twice off the Roaming Throne. And the Steel Seeker must have got out another land there, and a Trail of Crumbs gone into the graveyard. Now see what the teamer player can do. Only 8 life here, so you can see why all the blocks were made. Mounted up more than I thought it would. Magus Lucea back into play. Plus counter on herself. And a creature did enter, so another Gargoyle token. Now then, can we surprise this player with an overrun effect off the Return of the Wild Speaker, especially while we're drawing into all these card draw effects? Maybe get a blocker out of the way with the Skirk Prospector. Can do that with the Skyclave Apparition. How much mana do we have though? We'll need 10 mana in order to go for Return and our Commander. Yeah, we've got 10 exactly if we shock in the Sacred Foundry, so let's do that. And I'll just assume with the +3/+3 buff from our commander that all of these are going to survive. Maybe a few chump blocks. Let's say they block with all of them. That'll be only 5, 6, 7, 8 damage getting through. But are they going to block all of them is the question. I think it's a bit too aggressive to swing in with everything. So maybe see what we get off the commander first. And that enters. We can give that haste if we swing in with that as well. Does that make a difference? I'm just going to go in for a Hail Mary against this player because I think it'll be funny. So let's give that haste. Although saying that, the way I've tapped my mana is weird, so I can't actually surprise my opponent with a Return of the Wild Speaker anymore, can I? But depending on what we draw, things might change here anyway. There is the Great Henge going to draw us as well, gets a plus counter on it regardless. Okay, Skyshroud Claim means we can have 4 mana left after that. Could go Skyclave Apparition onto the sack outlet and then blow up this with the Duergar Hedge Mage. Yeah, I think we can do that. Make the game last a bit longer at least. So we can play 2 3-drops, or I can go for Skyshroud Claim into that. I think I'd rather just get the mana out here, so yeah, let's go for the Sky Shroud Claim. Oh, and of course things cost less mana, don't they? I keep forgetting about that, so yeah, Sky Shroud Claim. Forgetting about the Goblin Anarchomancer. A couple of treasure tokens from our second spell being cast, and we'll see if anything else is thrown into the graveyard. We see a Feasting Troll King. Might just be fishing for a board wipe at this point. Throwing away a Smuggler's Share as well, which I had no idea had been thrown onto Magic Online now. That's good. Finally seeing this one. So let's just make this a Savannah and a Tiger. Couple of untapped lands. I think we have successfully fixed our colours nicely now. That triggers Field of the Dead a couple more times. And we'll go for the enchantment with this now. That can come in with a plus counter on it. And the artifact can be... do we want to go after that while we can? Probably going to be a good idea to pay the ward. Yeah, ward of 2. And then we can get this in. Oh, that'll cost 2 mana. Doesn't get discounted by that. Yeah, we'll go for that anyway. Pay the ward 2. And then obviously this is the enchantment. Alright, we have drawn into Sky Hunter Strike Force. So we're going to be able to get some decent attacks off in the next turn or two. All depends on what our opponents do though. It seems as though this player might be fishing for a board wipe. So after all that, I think we can actually make some attacks here and start to whittle this player's life total down before he goes off. Goes off even more than he already has done. So let's swing in all these things. Could trade out for the Duskana, couldn't he? 3, 4, 5, 6, he could do. So let's hold that back, it's a half decent blocker. And Duskana triggers on each creature. Obviously, all of the creatures in the deck are base 2/2s. So even though they are buffed with plus counters and the like, Duskana still sees them and will give a further +3/+3 buff. So it's a 6/6 and a 7/7 with double strike, a 7/7 Grenzo, 7/7 and a 5/5 token off that Field of the Dead. If it wasn't for Field of the Dead, I'm not sure I would have swung in here. But yeah, as you would expect, the double strike's being blocked, or at least one of them. So we're dealing a decent chunk of damage here. It's 12 off the Anarchomancer alone. Grenzo is going to goad something, I think. Yeah, I think we'll goad the sack outlet. Force them to swing in with that, because any one of us can get rid of that thing. He might be able to go for Conspire onto this to have it not swing in, but that depends on what he draws. Alright, so managed to knock him down to 11. We'll goad the Commander as well. And then exiling the top cards. I don't think we're likely to get into a Swords to Plowshares. We've got a 1 in 69 chance at the moment, so not going to bother exiling the top card. We'll just goad some stuff. So got that player down to 11. Still not sure what that one card in hand is, but we will leave it there. I think we can finally safely get rid of this Wheel of Fortune. So no matter what happens this game now, at least we got to see Duskana in action. That's exactly the type of combats that we want to be playing here. Seems as though they are after making a play now. Bear in mind they are going to have to attack him with these and potentially lose them. Pashalit Mons with a sack outlet is not good, so whenever another goblin you control dies, 1 damage to any target, at least it's not triple damage anymore. But that would have been a hell of a draw with this thing still in play. You can see the type of effect they're going for. Impact Tremors now, only 1 damage. And now sacrificing tokens, I assume, and creating a couple of red goblins. So pointing the damage at us directly. May well regret not getting rid of this thing. They may have wanted to tap this down for mana before they sacrifice creatures. And there's obviously the parallel lives to worry about as well. So that is 4 goblin tokens off the Pashalit Mons. And yeah, is that an infinite? I'm not sure. They'll get... how much does this cost? 4 mana to play this. So they sack all the goblins for 4 mana from the Skirk Prospector. And then pay into this and get 4 goblins back again. So yeah, that's an infinite as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I did say that Wort would be looking for combos. So tapping down a bunch of mana and making more goblins. This player decides to scoop. And then this player scoops as well. Yeah, it is infinite. I mean, I pointed it out already, but Skirk Prospector sacrifices every goblin that comes in. And this one makes 4 every time it activates for 4 mana. So 4 mana made, 4 mana spent. And it's infinite damage with the Impact Tremors and the Pashalit Mons. I did point it out in the chat, maybe should have kept my mouth shut and this player might have played through. But I think He should have been able to spot that really, that's quite a simple and obvious combo. Yeah, it was just reliant on the fact that our opponent wouldn't top deck into something, but apparently he did. Obviously could have got rid of the Parallel Lives or the sack outlet with Skyclave Apparition, but we got to see what we can do with Duskana, the Rage Mother, on that last turn. Took a while to set up, but this is the type of thing that we want to be doing. It's quite a fun deck, I think. If you all enjoyed it, then be sure to let me know in the comments, and I will play it again. We'll try and get a more full game than this, but time is of the essence this week, as ever, so I will send you all this video and hope you all enjoy it. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.